Hello, welcome back to the Football Terrace. Financial football expert Kieran Maguire has looked at what it would take for the billionaire owners of Manchester United to pack up and sell the club. And this has led to some headlines this evening suggesting they could be forced out. We're going to take a look at this news. We're going to go through it with you this evening, take your calls as well. But we know what happened over the course of the weekend. Huge protests at Old Trafford. We saw fans enter the stadium. We saw the biggest game in English football called off. There are more protests expected at other clubs that were joining the Super League, including Arsenal and Tottenham, before the end of the season, and potentially another one at Manchester United as well. But Kieran Maguire, along with a number of other experts, are releasing really interesting information in relation to Manchester United and the potential of the club being sold. I want to go through that with you now. I want to go into what it is that they have said, what it is that they're talking about, and how this could potentially happen and be possible for Manchester United Football Club. One of the key factors here to focus on is something that Kieran Maguire said, that when at present the shares are worth 2.1 billion. Anyone wanting to take over the club would have to pay a premium to persuade the Glazers to sell. This is something we've spoken about many times on the terrace. So realistically, a 3 billion offer would be necessary, leaving them with a handsome profit. In addition, lenders may invoke a change of control clause and demand repayment from a new owner, which could take the overall cost up to £1 billion. So in terms of what that essentially means, is if any of you are ever thinking of buying a business may have contracts with the supplier, with a client. So you might be a building business and you've got that business at the moment has contracts with a local authority or a local government or some schools or a business. It could also have debt with a bank. There's often clauses in these types of contracts which mean a change of ownership of that organization could mean those contracts or the work or the lending is therefore null and void. So this is something that, as Kieran here has said, it could take the costs of selling Manchester United up to 4 billion. Up to 4 billion pounds. What's also interesting is a lot of people think that maybe the 50+1 rule would work. Says the German FA prevents any single investor from owning more than half the share of a club. This allows fans' views to be represented in the boardroom if they act collectively to vote. In the boardroom if they act collectively to vote in directors. It is unlikely that such an idea would work in England, as it would potentially require huge compensation for existing shareholders. And that's something that many people have spoken about in the past as well. But Kieran really brings it to life here, because Manchester United, we may want this, but are we actually being realistic as football fans in relation to seeking this out? You've got to understand that the Manchester United current owners, the Glazers, purchased the club for circa 790 million pounds in 2005. At that point, the club had 6 million pounds in its bank accounts and no debt. We now know hundreds of millions of pounds in debt, but again, cash reserves are higher. For the government to change the laws to enable this to be possible, it may cost hundreds of millions, if not billions of pounds, to put this into place. And not just at Manchester United, at other teams across the country as well. The final part that was spoken about that really stood out to me was how it could be possible. So it says here that an alternative approach could be achieved either by the FA or government legislation mandating that fans could appoint non-executive directors. These directors could vote at board meetings and even have a veto over key decisions such as the resigning from a league, moving a stadium more than 10 miles, or the change of a club colours or crest. This would not require any financial cost to be involved. And this is, for me, represents this whole article represents. So you can go through it. It's a great article. Lots of detail given in here. You know, one of the major parts that stood out to me when reading this article is the fact that there are some mooted reports in the financial world that the Glazer family is split on whether or not to actually continue. with owning the football club. And on top of that, which I also thought was huge news surrounding this situation, was the fact that the stocks and shares have relatively underperformed compared to what they were predicted to. The Glazers felt that the Super League would see the share price rise to a degree that would make up for sort of 7-8 years of underperforming on the New York Stock Exchange. So when you've got family members that are against each other, you've got a share and essentially a share offering on the New York Stock Exchange, never really fulfilling the potential it was promised. The lack of Super League football, the pressure coming from fans, there are options here. The pressure, of course, needs to remain from fans, there's no doubt. There's a split within the Glazer camp, according to reports. However, this is a huge cash cow. And I see a lot of Man United fans say things along the lines of, why don't they just sell now and make a profit? Because the asset continues to appreciate. It continues to grow. It continues to get bigger and better over the course of time. They can use it as an asset to secure against deals. They can lend money against it. They earn considerable amounts of money each year through dividends when they end up selling shares on, as an example. And as a share price, it may be underperforming based on its forecast back in 2012, but it has still performed to a point where they've made millions of pounds. Why would they? There are two options, and we go back to what we've been speaking about for 2 or 3 weeks now on the terrace. Reducing the valuation of that asset by voting with your wallets as fans. The other element is for government legislation, FA legislation, and criteria to be put into place that gives fans a vote, gives fans an element of power back. Now, I know a lot of people are talking about the 50+1 rule. This may not be possible for multiple reasons. One, huge costs and compensation. Secondly, I'm not sure, and I've seen reports about it, that it isn't strictly illegal. That it isn't strictly legal to potentially go out there and do this. Now, from my point of view, I've always felt that it was almost impossible to sell the club unless those two things were to happen. On top of that, who is going to pay up to £4 billion for an asset valued at around 2.1 billion? Nobody, unless there's a billionaire out there that's got more than 4 billion quid, a lot more than 4 billion quid, and is absolutely passionate about Manchester United. They're going to want to wind that deal down. But there are multiple factors. One, the Glazers don't want to sell, and they would only sell at hundreds of millions, if not over £1 billion above asking price. Or if legislation came in forcing them. And if all these things were to happen maybe at the same time, so they lost their power, they lost their control over the club slightly with the legislation, plus fans were to vote with their wallets, it is conceivable that the Glazers could be forced out. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. Terry, are you watching the game? The game's on right now. I'm not actually watching it like intently, but there we go. I know what you guys were talking about in the comments here. A few people saying Glazers in, a few people saying Glazers out. Mo's always in the comments here. I really like Mo, but you're a very weird guy. You seem to come to the football terrace and moan a lot. I'm so sad. There's a comment here that says 50+1 rule would deflate transfer budgets of teams. I think it could do a number of things. I also need to research it more. But I also get the feeling, Antonio just missed the biggest chance I've ever seen in my life. I also get a feeling that the 50+1 rule could stop Leicester Cities and Wolverhampton Wanderers. It could even stop future Man City or Chelsea's. So I don't know if I want there to be a kind of monopoly in England like there is in Germany. The biggest teams are the biggest, the smallest teams are the smallest, and it pretty much stays like that moving forward. But I think allowing fans to be able to veto certain votes, fans to appoint non-executive directors, fans to have a say on who is actually running the football club and what the vision of the football club is. And it wouldn't take too long of being in the right kind of fan with the right kind of education and know-how, but the ability to translate back to us working class people in the right way. Understanding what the club's actual ambitions are. The rumours that we care more about the bank balance than where we finish in the league. Most of us believe they're not to be rumours. We believe that to be facts. If you've got fans on the inside, we can ensure that voting happens and mechanisms are put in place to stop that and to protect Manchester United and other football clubs. So it really will be interesting to see what can happen. Baz here says more checks and balances. And that is absolutely it. That is absolutely it in a nutshell. More checks and balances. more to be done to stop the poor running of these football clubs. That is the long and the short of it. There's no doubt. I'm going to do some more of your comments here. There should be a referendum for changes like the Super League with club members, since one person could be corrupt. Yeah, I understand what you mean in terms of taking this. Look, the Premier League are about to, I haven't read it yet. I think they've either launched or they're going to be releasing some information that details changes that are going to stop teams from being able to break away. So far, as far as my understanding is, there's nothing in there that's about the ownership of clubs. It's more to protect themselves than it is to protect fans, which is disappointing to say the least. Glazer out, says Terry. Ever since Woodward left, I've always wanted thought the Glazers are selling. A very reliable, in the know, think so as well. Listen, I think for me, the Glazers only sell if it's a ridiculously high offer. The Glazers only sell if we start to depreciate the value of their asset. If the asset continues to grow in valuation and nobody makes them an offer north of £3 billion, the club isn't being sold. In conjunction with that, government legislation and change could help. Government legislation and change could help. Man like my guy Josh Waring here says, I think having a wealthy owner who buys above asking price is going to set the tone for football operations. The new owner will have to splash the cash and put the right people in key positions. Now, for me, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree with that notion and that thought process 100%. And this is where the 50+1 rule, I need to research it more and do a lot more education myself on what that actually looked like to means, because people are talking about salary caps and transfer caps and everything else. But what I don't want to happen is a club becoming successful and growing its brand and growing its global audience over a 10-year period, not enabling it to actually progress on the long term as well. So let's just take a team West Ham size. Say West Ham get in the Champions League and get to a semi-final, and they buy really well in the summer, and they get them. So say they do 3 or 4 years on the bounce in the Champions League, and they grow and they get bigger and better. They got more income. A new owner comes in that wants to take them further, but then there's caps on how much can be spent. They'll never be able to exploit and yield that new power of success they've had. So I kind of want there to be this element of anybody can go from being nowhere to being the best in the country and maintain it. But at the same time, the decisions made are there to protect the football clubs and the fans in the long term. I just think we need to find a happy medium between those two things. So yeah, there's a lot of people saying it in the comments here that same thing. There are lots of people out there that are saying that the 50+1 rule won't work, and I don't think it will, based on what I've read. For me, but there still needs to be checks and balances. There needs to be fan involvement at board level to be able to make critical decisions, and that's exactly what Kieran Maguire spoke about in the article today. It says here the alternative approach could be achieved by either the FA or government legislation mandating that fans could appoint non-executive directors. These decisions could vote at board meetings and even have a veto over key decisions, meaning the clubs could never just leave the Premier League without the club's permission. Couldn't move stadiums, without fan permission. They couldn't move stadiums without fan permission. They couldn't appoint a new director of football without fan voting. And these things are important because fans, Man United fans right now, do not want to see another Ed Woodward running the club. They want to see Edwin van der Sar or an equivalent come in and run the club. The Glazers could even, listen, I know that the notion right now is your apology isn't accepted, and I understand that. But they could still rectify this situation. Bring in someone to replace Woodward, who is recognized and regarded at world level of football at being brilliant at that job, and give them a huge volume of autocracy in terms of running the football club. Get that done. Invest the right amount of money. Refurbish the stadium. Refurbish the training ground. Make winning football matches the most important element of Manchester United. Put the fans first, and you will quite literally see people change their tune. They can do that still. They may never get universal love or the connection that some owners may crave, but at least they can find a happy medium. If none of these things, or very few of these things, or even not even, you need at least 80% of the things I've mentioned done before anybody's going to let up now. Anybody. Jax here says autonomy, not listen. Yes, I meant autonomy in terms of control. There needs to, there still needs to be an element of when I meant autocratic, I meant away from the owners of the club, where Edwin van der Sar could make a decision without necessarily getting their permission. So if that makes sense, like everything doesn't have to be run through them. That's kind of what I meant. Autonomy would probably be a better word. You're absolutely right. Sorry, my apologies. I was thinking about it from reverse, but you're right. Thank you for pointing that out to me, bro. Thank you. Comment here says there is no rectifying. There may be no rectifying in terms of how you feel about them, but they can, if they don't want to sell, they can still run the club better. They should still run the club better. And that should be at the very least of what we were aiming for, I think. I really, really do. Just an update as it stands right now. If West Ham do win this game, they remain 5th in the league, and they remain, it's 3 points they'll then be behind Chelsea. Chelsea's next game, I swear it's Man City. Wow, the top 4 race is going to be absolute fire to the end of the season, isn't it? It's going to be absolutely fire. Terry, what do you think that... I think the Glazers' response will be open-ended and corporate, and we're fully behind the club. We love the club. We respect the fans. It will not be put together by them. It'll be a script writer will put it together. I don't think we'll hear any of the Glazers actually speak or talk, because then you would hear the insincerity in their voices, and it'll be spin. It'll be all the right things to say, but without any genuine meaning behind them. I've witnessed so many of these corporate statements in my life that I switch off from them. I actually don't care what they say, because unless they say we have put it on the market and we can basically see the for sale sign outside, that's metaphorically speaking, I don't trust anything they tell me. The only way I would ever trust what they're telling me is if they said they were going to do better by us. Oh, wow, Burnley. Oh, Jay Rodriguez missed a sitter. Should be 2-2. The only way I would believe them is if we started to actually see genuine change. And I don't know if we will. Terry, they're going to get Sancho and release a new kit, and win the gullible lot back, and ones who want change will just fade. And you could very much be right on that, bro. I truly hope you're wrong, but you could very much be right. Do you think you can win with the Glazers with the right people working for them? Yes, because we won with them before with the right people working for us. With Fergie and David Gill, we were still winning. Will we ever get that dominance back we crave as fans? No, not in my opinion. We won't. I don't think we can ever get that back with them being here. Yeah, I don't think that. I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think that'll ever happen. I don't think it will. Oh, opportunity here for West Ham. Oh, foul's been given by the ref. We had a super chat that came in here from my guy Baz, who says, "Can the government force change in cooperate governance legally?" I think so. I'm not a legal expert. I think what England has to its England has to its advantage now is the fact that we're out of the EU, that we make our own laws. I don't know if there's anybody outside. Like, they can take it to the highest court in the UK, But the one thing I saw over this Super League element, I've never seen in my lifetime such universal togetherness of political parties. And if every single political party is behind this, and in truth, all fan groups are behind it, and the public opinion is behind it, generally the courts are not gonna side with the owners. They're just not gonna do it. Do I miss going to matches? Yes, I do. Not the match itself. I prefer watching football on TV. When I'm at games, I miss too much. I'm singing, I'm laughing, joking. I love the experience of being at football. The social element is second to none. In terms of watching the football, I actually prefer watching the games at home. I used to look when I used to go to Old Trafford. I used to love getting home, and at the time I used to get back, generally it had already been on. I used to love watching Match of the Day because then it was when I'd really see the game, and I used to love it. But I didn't see that. I missed that part. I didn't see that happen. I missed so much. That also probably had something to do with the fact that by the time the game kicks off, I was invariably 5 to 10 beers in by that time. So it was a very different. The way I consume football, very different. The Brexit advantage. Wow, unthinkable. It could have. I'm not a legal expert, so I don't know. But I understand part of the reason was to move out so that you can make your own laws without anybody governing you. I always feel like if we were trying to bring in a new legislation on football, I get a feeling the European courts would put a stop to that. But, or you could govern it in the UK, but then a court outside of your country could put a stop to it. There isn't that issue. So if you get it through the courts and the legal system in the UK, I don't think there's anything anybody else anywhere in the world can do about it, is my point. It's not so much the only benefit is you'd have to go through less hoops and less courtrooms and less challenge. I think that's my understanding. Yeah, a few people saying, Terry, did you mean autonomy and not like an autocratic approach? I did mean autonomy, or I can't say it now. Autonomy. That I might be saying it right. I might be saying it right. My brain's gone. What I meant by the sort of autocratic approach is I want if Van der Sar comes in to run the club, I don't want him to have to run to the Glazers every 5 minutes. I want him to be able to self-govern. So autonomy is a much better word than I use. I picked the wrong word, but my point remains. I want that person to be almost ring-fenced in certain decisions away from the board. Certain things have to go in, but there has to be an element of power given to that individual and for them to deliver certain things. That needs to happen. That's what I would want to see happen. That kind of that independent self-rule, I think, is going to be important, but still with an air of sort of absolutism. I want that person to be absolutely in charge of the club and running it because they know what they're doing, and the Glazers put that trust in them. Now, say I came into loads of money and I wanted to buy a restaurant, I ain't going to run the restaurant. I'm going to find a head chef or someone who works in that industry to run it for me. But then you give them a certain level of power. An autocratic approach, it probably sounds a bit wrong because that's obviously generally connected to like dictatorships and like sort of a tyranny and stuff like that. But yeah, I know what I meant. Apologies for using the wrong word, but we'll put that one to bed now because I think you will get what I mean. Have you seen Rory Jennings' comments on Abramovich? No, I haven't. I will take a look. I haven't seen that. People keep saying McTominay. Why do you keep saying McTominay? I'm so confused. Why are you saying that? Centralization of power is what you meant. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I ain't too fussed what the word is, to be honest with you. I was thinking autonomy, but I said the other one because I said the wrong word. That's it. But we move from there. Someone said a word to me the other day and I died with laughter. And I can't remember what it was. Oh, it's funny. It made me die. And because I do it all the time. My dyslexic brain messes me up. You guys are making my head hurt now. Autonomy, Scott McTominay. I don't get it. Why don't I get that? Why don't I understand it? It's really hard for me when you're given a dyslexic words to read and trying to make me understand what you mean. But there we go. Terry, do you think the Glazers will sell at some point? At some point, potentially, yes. But not if they keep making money. Not if they keep making money. If they keep making money, why would they? Legitimately, why would they if they keep making money? There's no need to. Connor Wells here says, we have hit the Glazers in the pocket. Don't attend games. Don't buy merchandise and protest outside before every game. Enough is what Connor Wells thinks. Oh, it rhymes. Autonomy, Scott McTominay. Does it? Hang on, I'm getting confused about how it even sounds now.
Autonomy
And Scott McTominay. No, they don't rhyme. McTominay and autonomy. That doesn't rhyme. That's why my brain was hurting. How's the other one sound?
Autocracy.
Autocracy. That doesn't sound like autocracy. No, none of them sound the same. None of them sound the same. In my opinion. It's funny you say that though. When you got the word there's, under the definition here of I'm going to say it again.
Autocracy.
Autocracy. It says, hang on a sec. What does it say here? So it says a boss who shifts between autocracy and consultation. So I have heard it used in the corporate sense, and that's sometimes what you need, and that's kind of what I meant. I think that's why I got the words around the wrong way. I want a boss in charge of the club who sometimes has to go and consult with the owners, but there are other times when he has the power to make that decision. So it could be the budgets are set for how much he can spend on players, and once they're set, he then has complete control, whether it's autonomy or whether you want to use the word sort of an autocratic approach. He has that then control over it. That's why I said it, because I have heard it used in a corporate sense, and it was just used there. That's why I think I said it. That's my get out of jail card anyway. There we go. Egal here says, Rory, okay, so it says, the most hypocritical people in the world have to be the Chelsea fans who hated the concept of the Super League, support Man United fans trying to get the Glazers out, but what? Sorry, that makes sense. The most hypocritical people in the world have to be Chelsea fans who hated the concept of the Super League, support Manchester United fans to get the Glazers out, but don't. Maybe you mistyped that and I'm reading it wrong. Try it again. Okay, but don't have. Is it two separate things? Okay. But don't have the courage or convictions to say anything against Roman Abramovich. Interesting. See, I have to listen to what he said for context rather than just read it out loud. But there we go. Daniel Ek to bid 1.8 billion for Arsenal by the end of the week. That's going to be very interesting indeed. This game between West Ham and Burnley has been actually entertaining. I haven't listened to it, but I can see it's end to end. It's crazy. I don't know what's going to happen. They need another goal. West Ham to put to bed. It's about the people who love the beautiful game and what it represents, regardless of the club or the allegiances. That people, history, and heritage can't be bought and sold, is what Bert has got to say here. By the way, do me a favor, everyone who's tuning in, and hit that like and that share button. I want to read some more of these comments here. A lot of people having a pop at Rory here. Like, I don't know what's been said. I'm not going to condemn something until I hear someone saying it. Let's do some more. Imagine McGregor as the owner just clock one of our players for making a mistake. Yeah, can you imagine? No one would math off at that owner. Terry, the word is Initiative. I hear what you're saying, bro. I hear what you're saying. Terry is being trolled. I don't mind a bit of trolling from the viewers. It's all nice to have a little bit of fun. I don't feel like I'm being trolled. Like, I don't feel bad about it. A lot of people putting Rory's comments in here. Rory seems to have triggered a lot of people. So you're saying that he's calling Chelsea fans hypocrites. 4 billion is overvalued, but it may not be. You have to listen to what the financial experts are saying here, and with all due respect, and not worry and not think about it from your point of view. So we'll put this up again for you, bro. I'll put this up for you, Ray. So listen to what Kieran said here. It's worth about 1.2, and they would only sell for 3. When you want to buy something that people do not want to sell, you always pay above the odds. That is standard business. Scarcity drives that price up. Okay. The rareness of it drives that price up. The fact that the person doesn't want to sell means you have to make them an offer they can't refuse. However, it could go up to 4 billion because lending clauses may be cancelled and invoked, which means the payment of debt becomes almost an instant issue. So it could rise up to 4 billion depending on those clauses. Now, Kieran isn't going to know what those clauses say because he isn't privy to that information from those banks, but it's giving you the idea of how much it could cost. That's how much it could cost to get done, as opposed to the valuation of the club. They are two different things in some regard there. Let's do some more comments. +50+1 rule will make English clubs less competitive and attractive. It will give the biggest clubs with fan bases all the power, like in Germany and Spain. And again, that's also I'm a Man United fan, so that rule works very, very well for me. But it isn't one that I kind of support. I would love to see a small, tiny team in the next 20 years become huge. I love that dream. Does the 50+1 rule stop that? Potentially. Terry, love your videos. Ignore the hate. But I don't feel like I'm getting any hate. Like, honestly, people just having a laugh and a joke in the comments. Like, it is what it is. Sometimes I'll use the wrong word. I'm not an orator. I'm not a highly educated man who went to Oxford and did English literature. I'm a working class. I've got GCSEs, but slightly undereducated working class man who is dyslexic. So occasionally I'll say the wrong word, but I'm in complete and utter. I'm so comfortable in my own skin and accepting of who I am as a person that it's never going to bother me if I get a word wrong or whatnot. However, the context I was using the word was more of a corporate sense. And sometimes words, it's interesting how certain words can be used in certain environments and they mean something else outside of it. But there we go. Terry has beautiful hair on his chin. I like that, James. I like that. Terry let the bald cut. I haven't had a hair transplant. My hair, it just grew back. It's only slightly, but it's only like the front of it that's kind of gone, a bit of the back. But I will be getting a hair transplant. And that's not because of the bald comments. It's because I fancy getting it done. It's just that. Just fancy seeing what it does. Thinking of getting a boob job as well, to be honest. No, I'm not. But yeah, just eats to their own, isn't it? I'm thinking of getting my teeth done though. Just getting veneers, just for a laugh, just to see what it's like. You can't go back from that though. If you get hair transplant, it looks bad. At least you can shave it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, it is what it is, man. It is what it is. Terry wants to go to Turkey, maybe. Terry, you are so sick. Oh, thank you. That's a nice thing to say. I wouldn't agree with you. That is a 2-footed tackle and a red card, surely. That looked like a 2-footed tackle there from a West Ham player. It may not have been in real time. It was well bad. Let me see. Oh, actually, it wasn't 2-footed, and it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Actually, slow motion made that one look better, I think. He pulled out of it as well. Just look, my angle, I thought it was 2-footed. I thought man was gone. My bad. Thank you very much, bro. Thank you there. Thank you. Make sure that like button's being hit, by the way, people. Get that done right now. Some of your comments are funny. Someone here says, who wants to buy Man United? No one. Right now, there isn't a single person that we know of that's interested in buying the club. That's also something to be, I wouldn't say to be concerned about, but to be mindful of. You can only sell a club if people want to buy it. West Ham got a counter-attack here. They should score. They should wrap the game up. Still no third goal. You know, sometimes you watch a game and you think it's got a sting in its tail. They've missed so many good chances in this game. It's unbelievable. But let's see what happens here. Let us see what happens. Terry, why isn't Sir Alex Ferguson getting any blame? Because Sir Alex Ferguson isn't to blame. It's as simple as that. It's as simple as that. Terry, are you taller than 5 foot? Yes. Yeah. What a weird question. That's a strange one. Yes, I am. That's a good one, though. Oh, they've got another chance coming forward here, West Ham. Hi, Aaron. So we'll recap before the end of the stream, but essentially, Manchester United, they're not up for sale, as we know. But what Kieran Maguire has said in an interview today is that there is a possibility that the Glazers could be forced out, but it's going to depend on a few factors. The 50+1 rule isn't probably one of the things that's going to do it. It would cost too much compensation. It would also cost somewhere in the region of around £4 billion for someone to buy the club right now. However, there are fractions reported within the Glazer family. The shares haven't sold or done as well on the New York Stock Exchange since 2012 as the club originally had expected them to do. And if there is government or FA involvement that brings in legislation mandating fans get votes, this would cost no money or compensation and would mean that the fans could veto big key decisions like Super Leagues, moving stadiums, appointments of director of footballs, etc. This is what some experts believe could in time force the Glazers out. But everybody does and will have a very different view and opinion in relation to this. But listen, quick stream from me tonight. I really appreciate you all coming on and getting involved as always. Do me a big favor. Hit that like button. Hit that share button. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be previewing both of the Champions League games tomorrow, bringing you more news. But until next time, take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all.